being a professional and learning a professional, and then figuring out where you are and who you are and what you're about. And that's going to change over time.
When it starts feeling bad, that's when you know you need to double down. That's when you know you need to really start focusing on it even more, because that's the shit that you have to go through in order to gain the skill.
I think there's a certain point where AI cannot mimic certain human things, especially in the arts. I don't know if AI will ever truly master comedy, humor, and certain writing or music. I think these are the ways that you can kind of really differentiate AI. Like, so like, what's your goal with Next Gen Gentlemen?
Next Gen Gentlemen, we want to help people become the best versions of themselves. We want them to build the type of life that they want, that they can live and see a legacy, right? Build their legacy and pass that on to the next generation. And there's so many things coming at everybody in the world right now. We've never had the kind of access to information that we have now. And one of the things that is a muscle that gets developed in the process is discernment.
Okay.
And that comes over time, right? That's a kind of a wisdom thing. And so with the curriculum, we're focused on a lot of what these development organizations are focused on, and that is physical and mental fitness, being able to conduct yourself socially appropriately, being a professional and learning a professional, and then figuring out where you are and who you are and what you're about. And that's going to change over time, right? Who you are at 22, who you are at 25, who you are at 35. It's going to change over time, but we're in it for the long haul. So we really are focusing on helping young gentlemen get focused on becoming the best versions of themselves.
So you said we have this age of information. Obviously, you're trying to put out good information. Mm-hmm. What kind of bad information should these guys avoid with everything going on?
The get rich quick thing comes to mind. The go learn a new skill in 3 months and make six figures. Yeah. Go learn a new skill in 3 months and make six figures and buy my program and things like that. It's you've got the kind of the 10,000 hour rule for mastering a thing. A lot of people are familiar with that. If there's 2,000 work hours in a year, to get to 10,000 hours focus on something, it's going to be 5 years of work. Now, it's not to say that somebody has to get to a mastery level before they can monetize a skill or their knowledge. But even still, you've got to spend a couple thousand hours really to
That's a good point. It's that 10,000 focused hours or
Right.
hours of focus.
Right.
That's a very important word.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that get rich quick thing, come buy my program and in 3 months you've got a new skill and you can go make six figures. Let's be realistic about that. Mm-hmm. Theoretically in your 20s is the time where you go and become the man you want to be, right? Become the person you want to be. And you start off trying to figure things out, making some mistakes, building on those, staying with it, and hopefully you're a different person when you exit your 20s versus when you came in. And so if you think about the 10,000 hour rule, you've got 10,000 hours from 20 to 25, and you got another 10,000 hours from 25 to 30.
So what do you recommend for like guys that are younger? Like in my case, I feel like I just bounce around a bunch of different industries. I did day trading, got a few rental properties. Now I'm doing podcasting. Do you recommend them just sticking with one industry or one thing and building that 10,000 hours? Or in their 20s, is it okay for them to kind of bounce around and find and feel their place?
I think you're good in your example. I think you're good to, I don't know, bounce around is the right term, but try multiple things. There's going to be some balance of things that you may have a natural affinity for or a natural interest in, and then figuring out whether you can monetize that or what's the upside of the monetization of that. And I'm a big believer in being able to collect skills, and it's not something that I came up with. I'll credit Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert.
Yeah.
You know, he has this concept, and generally speaking, it's think of approaching a new skill as adding to your skill stack. And every skill that you add to your skill stack, maybe conceptually think of it, it doubles your value. Now, does it really double your value? Probably not. But it does add to your value. And if it's in a lane that you are focused on, it is going to increase your value. And if you think of it as increasing your value quite a bit, then you're going to be more apt to pursue that. So, and it's part of what I think some of the value of, say, Next Gen Gentlemen is being in a group that has the common thoughts or approach or perspectives, and yet there's some diversity of people in different interests and different professions. Being able to have a sounding board and maybe think of a plan or come up with a plan, or maybe it's the first plan from a career perspective. Let's bounce that off somebody. Let's see and get some feedback, get a feedback loop going. Does this make sense? And if it does, then, you know, go in that direction. And then if you had a plan and you only get halfway there, and your situation's changed or the environment's changed, then maybe it's time to shift.
Yeah.
So, can you go and explore 2 or 3 things? Absolutely. You're probably going to need to find something though that you can take that first trip where you actually put in the 2,000 hours or the 4,000 hours and gain the competency. And then once you've attained that, you know the recipe for it. And so you can go replicate that again in any skill at any point in the future.
Yeah. So for me specifically, like day trading taught me patience. It taught me a lot of patience. And whether or not day trading ended up working
Poker
out.
taught me a lot of patience.
Yeah. But whether or not it ended up working out or not, like I'm happy with the time that I spent with it because I gained that skill from that. And and real estate taught me negotiations, like how to talk to people. Pursuing something for an extended amount of time, I've always been a big believer in that you need to pursue it for enough time that you can either gain a skill, learn something from it, but as soon as it starts feeling bad or you start feeling negative about the activities that you do, I've always thought that that's a good time to transition maybe to a new industry. And I'd like to get your opinion on this because I'm kind of torn in between. I hear people, it's like, okay, when it starts feeling bad, that's when you know you need to double down. That's when you know you need to really start focusing on it even more because that's the shit that you have to go through in order to gain the skill. And then there's other people that say, okay, well, once it starts feeling bad, then it's time to switch industries.
Yeah.
What's your kind of opinion on that?
You know, Corbin, I think of it like this, is that if you look at there's some kind of destination that you want to get to, right? Some type of level that you want to attain. Maybe think of some skills that because it's not going to be just one skill, right? There's multiple components that make up some kind of monetized skill. Think of what those components are, and think of what you want to or what you need to skill up on over the course of a time period, let's say a year. And then evaluate yourself periodically on where you are. And have you heard of a term? It's like a SWOT analysis, SWOT.
I haven't.
Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And I learned it in the consulting world. It's just an approach to evaluating. It could be a situation with an organization. It could be a skill set you're trying to develop. It could be where you are in life. It could be where you are in one aspect of your life. But think of the criteria that you're trying to attain or the expertise you're trying to attain. let's say there's 6 or 7 things, and then periodically evaluate where you are on the path of gaining those competencies that ultimately lead to some monetized skill. And to your point, it's like, when's it time to, fish or cut bait, so to speak? If you're not getting the progress that you need to, and you look around and you think you have the materials and the utility and the knowledge around you, but you identify these few reasons why it's not working, that's, to me, allows you to make an informed decision about, do I need to keep going, or are there barriers in front of me that I can't overcome right now? And by the way, there's a different direction I want to go. That's where you can maybe, if you bail, you take what you learned from that and apply that in other areas of life. But if you look at it and say, hey, if I just get through these 2 things that are coming up, whatever they are, then you can actually then, decide you can power through that or something like that. I don't know if that helps.
I think there's any career path or anything that will pay you, there's going to be a barrier of entry. And excuse me, sorry. Like if you want to be a doctor, it's pretty obvious. You have to go get this degree, then you have to get a medical degree, et cetera. If you want to be a firefighter, you have to go to this academy, you have to do this. But in these entrepreneurial fields, the barrier of entry is usually the first year or 2 of like sailing out at sea with no fish, and you just keep working and sailing, and then eventually it becomes profitable. But it's really easy on these entrepreneurial journeys in that 3-6 month when the dread comes, or the initial rush of the start is over. Like then you're like, oh, maybe this doesn't work. There's no money. It's never going to happen. But that's the barrier of entry for entrepreneurship, is the first couple years of just biting down, giving effort, making content, whatever your business is. It's really easy when it's the fire academy and you're doing towers and you're like, oh, this sucks, but this is the barrier of entry. It's very apparent.
Yeah. I think that's right, Andrew.
Well, so then what would you say was your like barrier of entry getting into cybersecurity? Because I know you as Cyber Steve. And so what was that process like for you? Or why did you get into it in the first place?
Well, I started my career out as a programmer, a developer, software developer. I used to write C code. And I did that.
So that's how you got your analytical brain.
Yeah. And it's just, real-time problem solving, nonstop, ad infinitum is really the way it is, right? I've got to make the code do this thing. Okay, inputs, outputs, process in the middle. Okay, it did it. What's the next thing it's got to do? And so I did that for 8 years, and then I knew that I didn't want to do it I didn't want to do it the rest of my career. And so I just, like you do when you're networking, you run into somebody that knows somebody, and then you happen to put your name out there. And I got connected to somebody that knew somebody in a consulting organization, and they needed somebody that the consulting organization was going to be doing software deployment, and they needed somebody to be able to do software deployment. I said, well, I can manage software deployments. I've been doing that, and went through the interview process, and they brought me on. And the first 3 projects that I did over the first 18 months was deploying security software. And so after that 18 months, I had a decision to make. And I didn't know about security when I started, but they surrounded me with security technicians that did. And so we were able to do the project work. And then 18 months in, I know some things about security all of a sudden. And so I had a decision to make. Do I commit? Do I become a security guy or a privacy guy or whatever? And I decided to do that. And so the barrier for me and what I brought to the table, though, from a technology and project management perspective, is what put me in that game. And then a couple skins on the wall. Now I know security tactics and terminology and things like that. Went and got a certification, and I've been in that game now for 25 years. So
that's pretty interesting field.
Yeah.
So what threats do you see on the horizon of cybersecurity?
Well,
maybe thing, like for a business, and then for just an individual.
Yeah, for
totally different, I would assume.
Well, there's nothing new under the sun. All the concepts apply. Yeah. It's just a matter of understanding what the risk profile is. And that's the way I always peel it back to if somebody's saying, hey, what should I do about this, this, or this? Of course, there's fundamental things that apply, but looking at somebody's risk, a person is going to have the way they operate. They're going to have a certain risk profile, depending on what they do. And so then based on how they operate, that lets you know where they need to ramp up security here or ramp up security there. And so one of the things that I'm a believer in, and it's been successful for me to look at things this way, is we shouldn't spend a penny more on security than we need to manage the risk that we want to manage. And so you could throw an endless amount of money at trying to secure an individual or an organization, but it's not going to be beneficial to do that, right? An organization is a business, and some of the reasons businesses make money is because they take risk. And so you should take risk.
Yeah.
But you should make informed decisions about that. So when it comes to cybersecurity, privacy, and things like that, my job is to help people or organizations understand what their risk profile is and then mitigate the risk they don't want to accept, and then accept the risk that they're okay with accepting. And so with an organization, I want them to understand what those threats are, what their risks are, what their controls are. And hey, feels like it's a little iffy over here based on understanding your business. You might be accepting some risk that you don't want to. And let me explain it to you. And then the leadership looks at it and says, thank you. We understand that now. We're good with that. Okay, then they don't need to invest anymore. They're doing enough.
Yeah.
Maybe they look at it and go, ooh, didn't realize we were taking on that risk. We'd like to spend a little money in that area and buy some of that risk down. Same thing for individuals. Same thing for organizations. Same thing for crypto. But if I look at what's coming down the pike or what's kind of sexy and exotic and exciting, it's AI.
Yeah.
Generative AI is the term everybody's throwing around. Every consulting organization under the sun right now has some kind of a generative AI group, and they're putting out white papers on how we help manage generative AI security risk and privacy risk. And
break that down. What is say it again?
Generative
AI.
Yeah.
Can you break that down for me? Because I'm not familiar with it.
So AI, the artificial intelligence, the DALL-E is one of them, where you can give it words and it'll create pictures and photos for you, right? You give them prompts. And the thing that people look at for AI, I think a lot of people, like, let's set up the business case right now. Why would people use AI? It's just it's the same reason businesses adopted spreadsheets in the early 80s, right? They're looking for productivity gains, right? So instead of having people just crunch numbers all the time, they can throw numbers into a spreadsheet in the accounting and finance department, and the spreadsheet crunches all the numbers for them. And then they formulatize it, if that's a word. But with the formulas, they just plug in numbers, and now they get all these exotic calculations. So they're looking for productivity gains. Maybe I used to have 25 people crunching numbers in the finance department. Now I've got spreadsheets. A year later, I only need 5 people in my finance department. So it's about productivity gains. So if you think about AI now, so what can AI do? If you're a marketing organization, maybe AI can you throw a few prompts out there, creative prompts, and AI can generate your marketing draft content for you instead of paying 20 people to write stuff, or an agency. Exactly. Then you can get somebody who's good at AI prompts for creating marketing content. And now you've got 2 people instead of an agency, and they're drafting all your marketing content. Now you still may need the agency, but they're not in heavy create mode. They're in like edit and alignment and refinement mode and things like that. So the generative AI just basically is like any AI technology that generates words or pictures or content for you. I think that's where the term comes from.
Yeah.
So what's like the big fear with it though?
Well, like fake nudes being leaked.
Yeah.
It'll make your dick look small.
Yeah. Well, I've seen there's that YouTube video going around where this couple went to a movie theater and they used generative AI to make a video of their baby daughter, and they turned her into like a 21-year-old girl, like what she would look like if she was 21, and saying like, this is the risk of you posting pictures nowadays, just on social media, because anybody can take those pictures.
And they could make a fake passport, fake ID, fake identity,
fake everything with it.
Yeah, that's certainly a risk, and boy, if that's a risk, we're all screwed, right?
Yeah,
it's really so. That's the theory. So then, when I think about privacy and security risk around something like that, it's probably going to be a little bit of cat and mouse. It's almost like viruses and antiviruses.
Yeah.
Right? People create a virus, and then somebody has to write a signature to update the antivirus so that it can detect this new virus. Probably going to get into some kind of technology that is ability to detect AI generated content.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was talking about this with a friend of mine, that I think there's a certain point where AI cannot mimic certain human things, especially in the arts. I don't know if AI will ever truly master comedy, humor, and certain writing or music. I think these are the ways that you can kind of really differentiate AI. Like, you tell me if you've ever seen a funny AI joke. I mean, it's, or the music, at least for now, even in the voice tone, it's kind of a monotone kind of raise. They can't.
Synthesized, right?
Yeah.
It's not quite authentic. There's
Maybe
something missing.
Outside my lane
You can't put your finger on it, but something just sounds different.
Was that the
right?
uncanny valley, or the uncanny? It's an art term where you can't ever quite mimic a human form. There's an uncanny valley that always humans detect. That's like an artificial painting or statue. Or
one of the interesting things that I've seen is when you look at AI generated photos, that for whatever reason the algorithm can't figure out how to always have 5 fingers on a human. Have you noticed that?
I've noticed that.
It's fingers and teeth.
Really?
Like somebody will smile and it looks like they have 32 teeth showing instead of just like the first 8 or 10 that should show up in a smile. And the same thing is you'll have a photo and it'll be of a person, and it'll look maybe authentic, but then you'll notice that they've got 6 fingers on one hand and stuff like that, or they've got too many teeth. So for whatever that is, inside the algorithm, it's some things they can't get real clean on. And then I've heard music too that's AI generated, and some people are saying, well, this is amazing, what's going to do to the music industry? But again, to your point, it's missing some human aspect.
Yeah.
So, there's definitely going to be a need for being able to identify that, especially when you can take something that's real and using AI and transposing somebody's face on it.
Yeah.
It gets tough. And right now it's not there yet, but Moore's law says that you're going to be able to, double transistors or the circuitry in computers is going to double every 18 months at the same size.
Yeah.
Your processing power is going to go up. It's just going to be a matter of time before they can get there. But the defensive techniques that they come up get to use the same processing power as well. So I think it's going to be cat and mouse, just like it is with everything else.
Yeah. Not to get doom and gloom, but I feel like as technology advances and AI advances, and with the growing incel epidemic, the epidemic of simping, as I call it, I wonder if these artificial girlfriends or whatnot will be so satisfying that even a greater number of men kind of fall off this dating pool, whatever you want to call it, which kind of brings me to the next gen gentleman. So how do you keep guys from succumbing to like porn and OnlyFans, and 10 years from now the robot girlfriend that
emotional self-regulation comes into play. That's a muscle you've got to develop, and that's probably one of the biggest challenges for society over the next however many years, or just emerging years, is that being able to manage your addictions, and it's the dopamine response addictions, right? Just scrolling endlessly on your phone and looking for the next cool thing that catches your attention. And it's.
I've lost hours of sleep. but just before bed, I'll
Sure.
scroll for 10 minutes, and then it's an hour and a half.
Yeah, and so that's just another emotional self-regulation thing that has to happen. And so, in the Next Gen Gentleman stuff, we absolutely talk about that as a topic. But then the other content that we put together is it's about self-awareness, understanding who you are and your responsibilities to yourself and your family and your community, and making sure that you've got your head on straight and your priorities straight. And so you think about porn use or whatever, it's just another potential distraction, just another thing that can capture your attention, pull you away from your responsibilities. And so recognize it for what it is and manage your way through it. Yeah. There's some version of you that or future you that can wake up every day and look at what needs to be done and put a plan together and do that, and that's your focus. And so that's the way you have success in the world, is waking up every day, deciding what needs to be done, and taking that action. And so if you can do that, then when you do find yourself with some time on your hands, right, that's when you got to worry about idle time, so to speak, right, and managing your time. But if you're living your life to some plan, according to some approach that you have, then you're going to be looking for things that are probably more fulfilling, probably more interactive, probably more family, friends, and community focused than isolated.
Yeah.
At the mercy of the next dopamine hit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You really have to be so self-aware with the technology coming in of your own biology, your own physiology, and how these things like trick you, and they're just giving you brain chemicals, whatever vibes. But
and it's a super addictive, or can be a super addictive type of distraction.
Yeah.
But you could substitute anything for it. Watching TV, binging TV series or whatever the case may be.
Well, so how does someone systematize emotional self-regulation?
Well, first, I think early it starts out with understanding, what it means to be a responsible adult. In this case, Next Gen Gentleman, what it means to be a responsible man, and understanding what that looks like. And so, if you're looking to become a better version of yourself, then the underlying assumption is that you want to be better. And so what does that mean? Well, then you need to be looking at what are your responsibilities and how can you add value to the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're thinking about that, then you're looking at things like,
that's a great basis to start.
Right.
How do I generate value?
Right. How do I generate value? Well, first of all, what are you going to do today? Right. Yeah. I've got some stuff I got to do. Okay, then why don't you make a list? Mm-hmm. And then how are you going to how much time is left in the day? How much time do you think that's going to take to do? What else do you have to do today? And so there's lots of things. There's time management. There's goal development and planning, and do you need to build skills, and how do you learn skills, and how do you decide where you want to go, and have you done some self-assessment, and can you do SWOT analysis? And so there's structure and framework, and then tools along the way that, do you plan your week out? Do you sit down on Sunday night or Monday morning and plan what your week looks like and what your schedule looks like? And then when you get to the end of the week, do you look back and see, how did I do? Did I do okay? Or am I blowing things off? Am I doing what I should do? And then you start having serious conversations with yourself about, how you are creating value in the world, or how you're not creating value. I created some value, wasn't enough value. Okay, well, you want to create some more value? Then let's look at some things where you're missing and lacking, and let's think about why are you lacking, right? Is it a motivational thing? Is it a skill thing? Is it an environmental thing?
I think most people don't realize how much time they have in a day. I've never sat down and planned out my week per se, but I'm a big believer in to-do lists. So like at night, right before I go to sleep, I'll just write as much shit down in my notes as I think I can get done the next day. And then I get up and I do it, and I realize it only took me like 6 hours to do all this shit that I thought was going to take me all day. And then once you do that, then you can start adding more stuff to your list. I like going day by day. I personally found that is what worked best for me whenever I started getting started in the world of self-development.
Sure.
And then you can kind of build off of that and know, okay, well, I can get this much done in a day, because I didn't realize how much time we had in a day. That was one of the things that I had to learn.
Yeah. Yeah, and everybody figures out and settles into their system. And if it's working for you, great. You got a system. Leverage it. Work it. If you find that you're not getting the stuff done, then you got to look at, well, is it my system? Is it my environment? Is it my mentality? Is it my mindset?
Yeah. Not everyone can look at themselves like they're analyzing software, though.
Sure.
They take themselves very personally, and they give themselves a lot of excuses and cop-outs and justifications. Yeah. How do you build that side of emotional self-regulation?
Well, I think that's where being connected to a group helps, because you can have conversations and you hold people accountable. Hey, how'd you do last week? Right? Somebody steps over and said, I've been trying to do this new, to-do list and schedule management and time management and things like that. It's like, well, how you doing? Well, not doing very well.
Yeah.
And so you get the coaching on that, being able to come back and say, oh, well, tell me what you were thinking when you decided not to do the 3 things that were important yesterday. Oh, well, I had this thing and had this thing. And that's where the coaching and the feedback can come in, to where you give them ideas and again, hold them accountable, right? They got to put in the work. Yeah. But you can give them some tips and tricks. And again, it's what works for one person may not work for the other person. But if you create the construct and there's a framework and a construct to follow, eventually they'll get to where something works for them, some system works for them. Because again, what works for one person may not exactly work for the other person for various reasons.
Yeah, I was going to say, so my self-talk is actually pretty rough. And over the years, I've had to learn to almost be nicer with myself. Like, talk to yourself like you're talking to a friend.
Yeah.
Like, not like you're talking to someone that you don't give a fuck about.
Yeah.
What's your advice to that kind of person that is really hard on themselves and maybe doesn't need a bunch of guys also heaping their shit like, you dumbass, you know?
Right.
So what does that guy do?
There's a concept that I think through on that is developing the right kind of governor for you, like a governance, governor, director, whatever you want to call it. So the idea of a governor, right? It's your own. It could be your own coach, like a self-coach. So one is you got to make sure that the words that you say to yourself are productive. People, you don't want to be too negative. You want to be positive. You don't want to cast bad spells on yourself, right? So you need to sensitize yourself, evaluate how to your point, you might be a little rough on yourself. Okay, well, is that working for me? Not so much. Maybe do I need to get better? Okay, so develop your self-governor who at ideally, they can hold you accountable. The governor, and it's this voice you're talking to yourself, they can hold you accountable, but they can also to motivate you, right? Yeah. They can also let you off the hook sometimes if you're being too hard on yourself. And so, just being a healthy self-internal dialogue. If that's a problem, right, you gotta think about that, because they call it spelling because the words end up casting spells.
Yeah. It's like Harry Potter.
Yeah, you got to think. So you do have to think about that, and it's one of those things too. Is in the coaching life cycle or the coaching process. If I were having a conversation with you, Andrew, and we're talking about how you did last week, as an example, and I hear you being uber hard on yourself, then I might say, well, man, you actually did pretty good. Are you sure you're not being too hard on yourself? Let's look at it a different way. And then, perhaps you look at it and go, okay, well, that's true. And give you some other ways to kind of self-evaluate or self-talk. And, again, there's no one right thing. It's just a matter of, what seems to be the block. Here's these constructs. Here's these concepts. Here's these frameworks to manage and build and grow and evaluate. And then in the coaching process, be able to, just like you're coaching an athletic team or something like that, be able to get to the individual level. Able to say what's working, what's not working. Oh, that's not working. Consider this other thing. Maybe that works for you. Maybe it doesn't.
Yeah.
So you've dropped a lot of business knowledge, especially like how to analyze a business, how to approach them with a plan. Have you coached a lot of like salesmen or business people?
I have. You know, I was been a consultant for a long time.
Yeah.
And I've managed teams, small teams. I've managed large teams, 35, 40 people.
Yeah.
And so just career development, personnel development is part of that. And, you know, from hiring to firing in situations, but then also career management, career development. And I started off as a technologist. And then once I got, you know, up to a certain level within the consulting world, I had to admit to myself I'd become a business development guy, a salesperson. And so being able to see people that might be technically oriented, but that are on a similar path as I was in the past, being able to see them kind of get to where they start to develop those sales chops and kind of step outside their comfort zone. Because it's easy for a technology person because they've had to grind and they've had to spend thousands of hours becoming technology people. It's not safe for them to come out and give a presentation to a client about something and you know, so being able to coach through that and to see people transition, it's hugely rewarding.
So you have a book sitting over there.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about what exactly this is that you sell for people? Sure.
So this is a book, Securing Wallets, the 5 Keys to DeFi Security. I bought my first Bitcoin in 2017, Bitcoin, Ethereum, some other things. And then it went through a down cycle like cryptocurrency goes through roughly a 4-year cycle. Went through a down cycle. I didn't do anything, just held on to it, kind of stopped paying attention to it. And then in the summer of 2020, some people call it the summer of DeFi, everything kind of blew up again, heading to the most recent all-time highs in 2021.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So I just got into DeFi a little bit, and I say a little bit, I got into it a lot. And being a security person, there's nothing new under the sun. All the concepts are the same, but there's some very specific technology related things that change in the DeFi space to make sure you're secure as you're operating in the cryptocurrency and DeFi world. And so I learned some things as I went, and then I started helping people onboard from fiat into crypto. And then I would coach them a little bit on making sure they're doing X, Y, and Z to be secure. And so I found myself basically repeating the same steps over and over. And then somebody actually mentioned to me, hey, why don't you write a book on, you should write a book on that. I was like, yeah, I should. And then somebody else said, hey man, you should write a book. And I said, okay, maybe I should write a book. So I started taking some notes and kind of framed out the book and put it off. And then I went back to it later, and somebody else said, you need to write a book. And after the third time I said, okay, I'm going to just do this. And so I just did this burst of activity over the course of 2 or 3 months, wrote a book, and it's how to secure your cryptocurrency wallet. It's for an individual, how to secure the wallet. It's the 5 keys to DeFi security. I talk about the 6 common threats to how hackers are going to come after your tokens or your cryptocurrency. And then, like I said early in the conversation, everybody's got a different threat profile. Everybody's got a different risk profile. Yeah. And so by looking at those 6 common threats, you can then start backing into, well, there's probably 5 keys that if you do these 5 things, it's going to cover your bases, and then go from there. So
So for the average guy that knows nothing about crypto, DeFi, or DeFi specifically, can you break that down? What exactly is that? Because I hear it tossed around all the time, but I don't know the actual definition or what exactly it is.
Okay, good question. if traditional finance or TradFi
Okay.
is the finance and banking and stocks and the stock market and the commodities market and oil and gas and things that get traded. If you think about that, that's traditional finance. And the world has spent a lot of time maturing that environment. The banking system heavily regulated, the financial markets heavily regulated, the fiat currency. That we figured a lot of that out, right? We as a civilization know how to do that. So now take decentralized finance, which is based around cryptocurrency, tokens, right? Not just Bitcoin, but Ethereum. There's different blockchains. Bitcoin is its own blockchain. Ethereum is a cryptocurrency that lives in the Ethereum blockchain. Solana is a cryptocurrency that lives in the Solana blockchain. And so decentralized finance one way to look at it would be comparing it to centralized finance. So if you're looking at JP Morgan Chase, there's a corporation, there's headquarters, there's branches, there's facilities around the world. There's a board of directors, there's stock, and all of those things that live in the traditional finance world. Now, take Bitcoin. There is no Bitcoin corporation. There's no Bitcoin board of directors. There is no Bitcoin stock, right? You can't sue Bitcoin, right? It has no country of origin, right? So it's decentralized finance. It's a form of decentralized finance. Same thing can be said for Ethereum and the Ethereum blockchain and all the tokens that are created there, whatever the case may be. So that's centralized finance versus decentralized finance, or DeFi. Okay. And so the thing about DeFi is this. It's the wild, wild west. There's very little in the way of regulations. It can't, quote unquote, be controlled like centralized finance can, because the infrastructure it's a different animal. And so right now, when you look at the world of DeFi and how it is right now, how it's regulated, they have to go to the centralized exchanges like a Coinbase. Coinbase is a company, corporation with stock. There's a headquarters, there's a CEO, shareholders, employees, right? So if a government or regulatory organization wants to work to regulate DeFi, the places that they can regulate it have to live in what is the TradFi world. So they'll regulate a Coinbase, and they'll do things like you can't list certain tokens that don't meet a certain criteria. Or if somebody wants to deposit US dollars in a Coinbase account, you need to KYC, or know your customer. You need to get their driver's license, their passport, their address, and you need to validate that. And so that's the control point. The centralized exchanges are the control point right now that the government organizations have for decentralized finance. But outside of that, I could write code tonight to make a token that runs on the Ethereum chain. I can create an application that looks like a website, and behind it are smart contracts. And I could put some money into it, create a liquidity pair, and start trading my token tomorrow, whatever I want to call that. And so there's no government organization in the world that can stop me from doing that. And I can do it however I want, to heck with any regulation or proposed regulation. And if I could convince you to give me some of your tokens for some of my tokens, then there's nothing to stop me from running off with the tokens that you gave me that have value, and then the tokens that I created have no value. So decentralized finance can be the wild, wild west in terms of, there's no regulation, there's no laws. It's a lawless it can be a lawless kind of a thing.
But that risk also is what gives it such big reward, right?
It could be, or it could just be a bunch of risk.
Yeah.
How do you go about investing in crypto for, say, a average income dude, 50 to 100K, somewhere in there?
I would look at it as, to be responsible, I would look at it as a part of a percentage of any investment portfolio.
Okay.
So if you've got $1,000 to invest, you got to look at your risk profile and decide if you want to put 100, maybe 10% of your investment portfolio into crypto, maybe. I don't know. So it's $100 on that, and with that example. And so, if you're not carrying any debt and you've maybe got 6 months of nest egg built up, just in case your emergency funds built up, and you've got more money coming in a month than you have going out in a month, then maybe you want to talk about investing in some version of a basket of goods, of stocks or mutual funds, or maybe a little bit of crypto.
So whenever it comes to the security aspect, what is your opinion on Coinbase specifically?
I'm a Coinbase customer, so I'm no problem with Coinbase. I think they do a great job. They seem to be meant to try to be the easy button for people that are new to it. They've got a version of their website that's very easy. It's kind of plug and play, drag and drop. You throw some cash, you deposit some cash, and if you want to buy some Bitcoin or Ethereum, they make it very easy for you to just click and say, I want $100 of this or $100 of that.
Yeah.
They're a good place to come on to the on-ramp. They're a good place to on-ramp from fiat or dollars into cryptocurrency. And they're a good place to off-ramp if you want to move from cryptocurrency back to dollars. They make it really easy.
I was going to say, so would you give that same advice to a high net worth individual that is making $1 million plus a year, as far as how he goes about investing in crypto or et cetera?
Or are there different platforms that are better for those type of people?
For like Coinbase?
Yeah.
There's many centralized exchanges out there. Some of them are treated differently in different jurisdictions. So Coinbase is great if you're a U.S. user. Things like Binance, very limited if you're a U.S. user. Doesn't mean you can't use it, but there's two Binances. There's Binance US and Binance Global.
Okay.
And Binance Global is not allowed to service U.S. citizens. So you have to, if you're a U.S. citizen, then you can participate in Binance US, but it's two different animals. Like you don't have the options. You don't have as many options of different types of tokens in the US as you would in the global system.
Yeah.
But
so how can an American get his money in the global system?
For Binance,
Is Binance US, is that what they have to go
to? So let's say, and I don't know the numbers, Binance US might offer 20 different tokens for you to buy, and Binance Global would offer hundreds. So that's the limitation. It's because U.S. regulators aren't comfortable with what's going on in Binance Global.
Interesting.
So they basically said, we don't approve you servicing U.S. citizens, and so Binance had to create a Binance.us.
Yeah.
That's a whole different animal with a whole different set of limitations and regulations and things like that. So,
what about hot and cold wallets?
Hot and cold wallets. So soft wallets, hot wallets.
So like a
wallets,
a hot wallet would be considered like Coinbase, right? Or do I have that mixed up?
Well, so I want to maybe introduce a couple terms, right? So there's a soft wallet would be a wallet that, well, let me step back. There's custodial wallets and non-custodial wallets.
Okay.
So a custodial wallet would be a wallet that you had on, say, Coinbase, but they are in custody of your wallet. You get access to that wallet through your login to Coinbase, but they hold the private keys. They hold the keys to that. In other words, there's nothing to stop Coinbase, if they wanted to be so inclined, to take your tokens, because they control your keys. Even though you got the password to the account.
Yeah, it's a facade.
They're the custody, right? It's like if you go through a Charles Schwab account and you buy Microsoft stock, they don't actually send you the stock certificates for you to hold. They hold those on your behalf. They're custodying that Microsoft stock for you. So I'm not saying that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
But if they felt like they could take your Microsoft stock from you. They wouldn't, because they're regulated.
Yeah.
But let's, now
What's
we're
your
talking
risk
crypto.
profile?
Yeah, now we're talking crypto. So if I go into Coinbase and I buy a Bitcoin and I leave it on Coinbase in my soft wallet / hot wallet, in this case, it would be the same thing, meaning it's accessible from being online. Mm-hmm. And so if the government decided tomorrow with no warning that Coinbase was, or that it was illegal for U.S. citizens to hold Bitcoin, well, guess what Coinbase is going to do? They're going to honor and follow what the government said, and you no longer have access to your Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. Not your keys, not your coins. So that's a custodial wallet. So now if I install a software-based wallet on my computer and I send or transfer the Bitcoin from my Coinbase wallet to my wallet on my computer, I control those keys. It's a non-custodial wallet, meaning I don't have a custodian. I'm the custodian. I own that. I control that completely. If the U.S. government said you can no longer hold Bitcoin, well, there's nobody to take it from you.
Yes. Okay.
Right? Yeah. Now, whether you're complying with the U.S. law, that's another thing. But the point is, in a non-custodial situation, meaning you control the wallet, nobody can take it from you unless they come at you with like a hammer attack. You know what the hammer attack is?
What's that?
It's like, you're like, hey, I've got, and so now that we talked to software wallet, let me step aside for a second. Software wallet. Hammer. It is. I'll get to that. So you've got a software wallet. That's a piece of software on your computer. Then I can get a hardware wallet, which looks like a thumb drive, like a token, right? That's your cold storage. I could transfer it from my soft wallet or Coinbase into my hard wallet, and there's a web interface to do that. Mm-hmm. And then once it's on that wallet, I've got it on a piece of hardware. Theoretically, it's technically not on the hardware. The keys are on the hardware, but because it's all on the blockchain.
Yes.
But I've got control of the keys. I could put it in my pocket, take it wherever, put it in a safety deposit box, send it to Switzerland, whatever the case may be. Those represent my keys to my tokens, to my Bitcoin. Now, if now that I have that, that's what I would say is the most secure, because you've got it. You've got the keys on the device. It's not on your computer. Nobody can hack into your computer and take it. It's right here, that kind of stuff. And so that's going to be your most secure. But now that's secure, right? But now maybe I post something on social media that I've got 100 Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. And then so somebody like finds me, meets me in a dark alley, and has a gun or a hammer and says, I'm going to beat you over the head with this hammer if you don't give me your passphrase, you don't give me your recovery seed, you don't give me the keys to your wallet.
Yeah.
And so, it can still be taken by force, just like that would be like a mugging, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Taking your wallet, taking your hardware wallet, taking your physical wallet, taking your credit cards, whatever the case may be. So, there's still, operational security, or OPSEC still applies just like it would any other asset in the world. But you got to be able to pass the hammer attack and for cryptocurrency and anything else.
Yeah.
Do you have different like hardware devices you recommend storing these? What did you call them? Hard wallets?
Cold wallets, hard wallets.
Okay.
would be the same thing. Cold wallet refers to hot and cold, refers to how readily accessible it is.
Okay.
If it's in a soft wallet or a hard wallet, soft wallet or a hot wallet, it's usually on a computer somewhere and therefore quote unquote connected to the internet.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's accessible, but if somebody can hack your computer, then they might have a go at trying to get into your wallet as well. Yeah. The cold wallet just meaning it's turned off. It's on a device, but maybe it's not powered up, and it's in a safe somewhere.
For the one, it's called like nanotech or something.
So there's Trezor, Trezor. Trezor is a hardware wallet manufacturer, and then another one is what is that other one?
I thought it was Nano something. I can't remember. I looked into it for a little bit.
Trezor has a model that's called a Nano.
Okay. Looks like a flash drive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I use a Trezor.
Okay.
I've used one, and it's it's like anything else. You pick one if it works for you. That's great. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's software associated with those too. So there's vulnerabilities that can come up. You got to patch them from time to time and things like that. But eventually, all of them are going to have software security vulnerabilities, and they'll all get patched, and some will get hacked, and it's like anything else. All banks have been hacked.
Yeah.
And your money's still there, and
yeah,
your ID,
so much more
your ID's
autonomy in
gone.
DeFi, I feel like.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Self-custody is what we're talking about, right? How to manage your wallet is self-custody. And self-custody is a challenge because it requires some technical knowledge. And even if somebody's not a very technical person, they can still figure it out, but it does require some technical knowledge. And so that's a big challenge for broader adoption for cryptocurrencies is to solve that. And it's why people like a Coinbase, they help solve that custody issue for you. But again, there's risk and threats associated with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, based on our entire conversation that we've had, what's like one big piece of advice or the one thing you want to leave everybody with, either whenever it comes to next gen gentlemen or securing your crypto or just being secure as a person or a business? What would that one piece of advice be?
Well, so let's look at it from, I say, the crypto perspective. There's 5 keys to DeFi security. And the first one is to always protect your recovery seed. Whenever a wallet is created, there are either 12 or 24 words that are given to you, and those words are selected from a known list of words, and they're in a certain order, and that's your recovery. People call it recovery seed, recovery phrase, secret seed, secret phrase, whatever. I'll call it a recovery seed. You need to secure those. And so always protect your recovery seed, because if somebody has that recovery seed, if you gave me your recovery seed, I could go and rebuild a live working copy of your wallet over here on my system and take all your stuff. So number 1, protect your recovery seed. Number 2, always use 2-factor authentication wherever you can. So associated with things like a Coinbase account, you're going to have your account login and password. It's probably going to be connected to your email, right? If I can hack your email, then I'm going to have a better chance at maybe tricking Coinbase into giving me or letting me reset your password. And so you want to use 2-factor authentication on the email associated with it, or 2-factor authentication on even logging into Coinbase. You don't want to just need your password. You want to have a second factor that's required for you to log in. So number 1, always protect your recovery seed. Number 2, use 2FA wherever you can in and around your environment. 3, always vet or validate, take steps to validate the people, the systems, or the applications that you're working with in the DeFi world or the crypto world. And so could be a lot to that. But just because somebody in a Telegram group said you should buy this token and here's the link to this token, right? You don't know that person. You don't know what's on the other end of that link. You don't know whether you can trust that application. you don't know if you can trust that person or that system. So you need to vet. You need to go through and make sure that you're understanding, who you're interacting with and what you're interacting with. So that's number 3. Number 4 is never approve a DeFi transaction or a wallet transaction. Never click approve unless you know exactly what's getting ready to happen. Because sometimes you're moving some tokens from one wallet to another. Sometimes you might be sending them up to a centralized exchange. Sometimes you might be sharing them with a smart contract somewhere so that you can earn interest on it or earn other tokens. Always know exactly what's getting ready to happen before you approve a transaction. And then the 5th one is have a concentration risk plan and manage to that plan. So, in other words, don't have all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
That's 5 keys to DeFi security.
That's awesome.
And they can get all this information in your book, can't they?
They can.
A little bit more elaborate.
That's right.
So where can they find you, Steve?
So Next Generation Gentleman is nextgengentleman.com. Young men's coaching program. You can find us there. You can find us on social media. My business, my cybersecurity consulting business, is ProVeritySolutions.com. That's ProVeritySolutions.com. You can find what I do there. You can reach out to me. I've got my book, links to my book there as well.
Awesome. Well, Steve, thank you so much.
Yeah, you bet.
That was awesome.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Corbin. You bet.